Hello. So today I went to the bookstore actually after breakfast. I had a good bagel and then took a little walk and went to a bookstore in central town and found a lot of good used books. Probably got lost in there for probably 3 to 4 hours just looking around at books I'd like to read. Nothing I want to buy, but I found in the used books section, I found a cheap book. I found The Three Musketeers in French. I don't have time to start it now. Ooh, there's a bookmark in here too. This is the name of the bookstore, Strand. It's in Midtown, and so I like that a lot. That I got this. Probably will be the next French book I read in French. I've always wanted to read. I've never read a book by Dumas, and so this is an opportunity for me to do so. Speaking of French, I did mention before, I have it now in front of me. It's in French, but it's a Japanese kind of manga style comic book about kind of wine and wine tasting that I mentioned in a previous video. So, it's a fun way to kind of learn about wine. And while learning it in French is snobby, I recognize it's just fun for me because I like French, and I have to look up a lot of the vocabulary. Some of the vocabulary is new to me and foreign, and I don't know, I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's an easy read for anyone who's interested in wine and is learning French. I would highly recommend just buying at least the first one. There's a whole series. It's very interesting. And then I know I want to read this in Russian. I've never actually I've read some of his short stories in Russian, but I've never read any of his books in Russian or English of Dostoevsky. So I actually went out. I saw this for under. This one was, I think they ended up selling it for 50 cents. So I was like, well, 50 cents is a good pickup. So I could read it in English before, and if I really like it, then I can reread it in Russian. A lot of times, a lot of people say you can't really get to know a book unless you read it in the original. And I disagree. I feel like unless you really have a mastery of the second language, you can't really understand the whole notions of the book. So what I like to do, if I really want to get to know a book in a foreign language, like in French, I think I'm good enough to understand the full nuances of what the author's trying to say. But in Russian, I'm not near there. So like with Master and Margarita, I'm reading it now in Russian, but I read it before in English. And with this, I've read Anna Karenina in English, but I don't like it enough to want to reread it in Russian. And I think with Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, I think that's a good idea. I've seen like a mini series of Idiot, The Idiot by Dostoevsky. So I feel like, a lot of just knowing the plot in general will help me go along with my reading as I read it in Russian someday in, the who knows distant future. And another book that I got for a friend is actually The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. It's one of my mother's favorite books. It's kind of supposed to be a humorous book about the point of view of an Asian American living with her, I believe, Chinese parents, and kind of the funny situations and culture clashes of things that for Americans are just very foreign, but that is done at her household and how she kind of adjusted to living kind of one foot in each culture. So I thought it might be good, and I bought it for a friend, but I may read it at some point this year when I want, a fun book. So, yeah, going to a bookstore is a lot of fun. I actually also looked, and they had a lot of teacher stuff. It seems like that's the main kind of independent learning series that's sold in American bookstores. And they had a lot of Czech books, but they didn't have any Polish. I decided since I started learning Polish, I'd like to maybe continue. Mainly I'm trying to learn Chinese and spending time every day in that. Progress is slow, but I'm having fun kind of learning another Slavic language that maybe it'll end up going nowhere, but who knows? I might really get into Polish culture. So I was looking, and what kills me is that there were so many Czech resources, tons of Czech. They had Teach Yourself Czech, they had a couple copies of it, they had other Czech books. For Polish, they just had a little phrase book there. And it seems like learning, even in general, I've noticed a lot more materials in general for learning Czech, and a lot of people learning Czech than Polish. And I always was kind of curious, is it just because Prague is such a more popular destination for travel, because Polish is much more widely spoken, at least here in America, and I feel like Polish would be more useful for me. Um, but it seems like Czech's much more popular to learn. I don't know, that's just my impression. I could be mistaken. So that's one thing. And the other thing, they had a lot of foreign language books. I picked up The Three Musketeers, and I was just looking around what they had. Again, my German's still pretty poor, but I really want to get into it. I couldn't find any books that I had heard of in German. They had a large selection, but I just didn't find anything that I really was interested in reading at this time. So I'll just kind of have to keep watching my television show once or twice a week, Kommissar Rex, in German, and maybe eventually pick up something, but maybe that'll be farther down the line. Right now, obviously, I have a large list of other things that I'm doing, but I always like doing a little bit of German and keep my eyes peeled for any new German materials that would be interesting for me. That's all. Have a good day, everyone.